That is where we begin this hour with the Bill Cosby story. We have learned that the jury at this stage is deadlocked. After almost 30 hours of deliberations, the jury announced that it is unable to come to a verdict. The judge wants the jurors to keep trying. It's already been 4 days of deliberations and the jury has not been able to decide whether or not Cosby is guilty of allegedly drugging and sexually assaulting Arica Duncan back in 2004. CBS News correspondent Jericka Duncan has been following the trial and joins us now from outside the courtroom in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Jericka, the jury has not yet reached its decision. Why?
They simply aren't apparently equipped enough with whatever information they need to make or to reach a decision. We know that it's not just that they're deadlocked on one count or two counts, but they are unanimously deadlocked on all 3 counts. One of those being an issue dealing with the lack of consent, another one being with the fact that Arica Duncan said she was unconscious and incapable of consenting, and then that 3rd count being whether or not an intoxicant was administered that left the victim unable to consent. And that was the question that the jurors actually had a couple of days ago regarding that 3rd count. They wanted more information. They wanted the judge to better define the count without her knowledge. Again, this dealing with administering an intoxicant. So they continue to go back and forth, and they've had at least 6 questions where they've asked the judge to reread statements. They want to reread testimony to get better clarification of how they are supposed to apply the law. But again, they are deadlocked on all 3 counts of aggravated and indecent assault. Now, interestingly enough, right outside, one of Cosby's accusers from back in 1990 had a very heated exchange with someone who is here supporting Cosby. So this is the first time that we've seen any real discourse where emotions got high as a result of clearly being closer to an end result here, whether that be they find Cosby guilty, not guilty, or a mistrial. And I'm told that with a mistrial, it really is up to the prosecution as to whether or not they want to try this case. And one legal expert I spoke to minutes ago said that they would go to Arica Duncan and really ask her, does she want to go through this? Does she want to testify again? So right now it's a deadlocked, and it's leaning right now, according to legal experts, toward a mistrial.
And this is the type of story people all across the country are watching because of Bill Cosby's celebrity status, known as America's father because of his role on his sitcom decades ago. But for jurors, they're not really supposed to consider the dozens of other allegations of sexual assault from Mr. Cosby. This is just the case of what happened with Arica Duncan. In what ways, in the time that you've been there, do the jurors appear to be showing any emotion or distress or exhaustion after continually trying to address questions, find answers, and come to a verdict? What's the state of the jurors as far as you've seen them?
Well, when I watched some of those jurors throughout this trial, some I honestly had a hard time, I think, staying awake. There were a couple times I saw a few people seeming as though they were, nodding off. It's very difficult to sit in a courtroom for hours upon hours and listen to testimony and experts. The judge was very fair about giving breaks every 2 or 3 hours, making sure, the jurors were comfortable if someone needed water. Not to say that people were literally falling asleep, but it was difficult, I think, for the 6 days that they did listen to testimony. And as they come back in with questions, they look tired. I noticed one juror tried not to make eye contact, I think, with Arica Duncan, who happens to sit right in the front. And there's a jury box, so all of the jurors wound up passing Arica Duncan, and she's sitting right up front. They're trying not to make eye contact, I believe, but inevitably I've seen a few of them look at her. One woman kind of gave a bit of a smile. So, the idea is no one's biases are supposed to get in the way of making a decision about whether or not someone's guilty, especially in a criminal case like this. But I imagine it's been very stressful, very emotional for those jurors who are deadlocked right now and really can't agree on what should happen to Bill Cosby and Arica Duncan. I mean, nothing essentially happens to Arica Duncan, but this is vindication for her. We've heard this before. Remember, and Bruce Castor, who was the DA back in 2005, looked at this case and decided there was not enough evidence to bring it to trial. Well, if Bill Cosby were to be convicted, this would be Andrea Constand not only being heard, but being believed. But again, right now, legal experts will tell you the fact that they are deadlocked, they continue to come back with these questions, it's looking more and more like we could have a mistrial.
All right, Jericka Duncan outside the courthouse there in Norristown, Pennsylvania. We'll join you again when there's an update. Thank you very much.